Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Into the Hive Mind. This is the cool one of the year. This is my tournament recap of LVO 2024. Got to play at an incredible event. It was at the Rio again. I believe this is the third or fourth year it's been at the Rio in Las Vegas. Got to travel with an incredible group of guys. Here's our team photo here. And ITC scores are in, and guys, our team, the Denver Mountain Trolls, we are ranked as the number 10 team in ITC, so very proud of that achievement. Really happy to be on a team with these guys, and just phenomenal players and great people to hang out with, so really excited about that. We also had the incredible Joe from War Games Live as the head streamer of the event. Fantastic guy, and really he has brought the game to what it is now, with basically featuring all of these unknown top level players in their areas. He travels around, gets them on stream, and allows everyone to really kind of see just how good the game is all over the globe. And with that, honestly, I think the mentality of the game has shifted for the better between the the Art of War guys really putting forward you're playing with your opponent, not against them, and then Joe really taking that and running with it. And I just can't say enough good things about just the general mentality of the game at this point. So huge props to Joe. Thanks so much for streaming this. And I'm just going to spoiler alert. I got to play on stream in round 3. So definitely go check that out. That was an incredible game. And was very excited to get to play on stream at LVO. So let's go over the list. This is all I'm bringing, guys. It's like 26, 28 models. If you watched my previous video, it's exactly what I brought to the Denver Fight Club Open, as that was an LVO prep. And at the end of it, I was really happy with how my list did, and I didn't change a thing. So it is a little light on trash, so secondaries, I could be in serious trouble if my Biovore ever goes down in terms of the secondary game. But otherwise, extremely happy with how this list performs. It just kind of hits this critical mass of monsters that, unfortunately, dropping any one monster, you're no longer at that critical mass, and the damage output and the durability suddenly drops off way too much. So I really wanted to throw gargoyles in the list, and I just couldn't. Everything in this list has a purpose, has a reason for being there. So let's walk through what the list is and why I'm bringing what I'm bringing. So first off, I am the Invasion Fleet, which is the index detachment. That gives you sustained hits against infantry or lethal hits against monsters and vehicles. The other cheeky one is critical hits can snipe out characters. And don't completely ignore that, because the nice thing about that, while I'll never pick that as like my actual thing, unless maybe I'm going against nothing but mounted units with characters, you still, like, there's a lot of armies that rely on their characters in the top end of the meta right now. Necrons, Chaos Space Marines, even Eldar a little bit. So just being able to spend a CP to put like 2 Exocrines in and suddenly get 3 lucky wounds through that do 3 damage each on a character, that Necrons especially, because most of their characters don't have invulns, you just snipe them right out, and it's really an incredible tech piece. So anyways, yes, we're playing Invasion Fleet. I am running a Hive Tyrant. I have no enhancements, but the Hive Tyrant is going to give out that 6-inch aura of Assault, as well as allow me to have a free Battle Tactics strat each player turn to add friendly unit within 12. And the 2 Battle Tactics that I can choose that on is a 5-up Feel No Pain on my opponent's turn, which is always incredible. Being able to give 2 monsters 5-up Feel No Pain makes this list hyper durable. And the alternative is give yourself crit 5s in melee. This is going exclusively on the 2 warrior units, and it makes them hit way above their weight, although they are like 250 point units. So maybe it makes them hit their actual worth in points. But either way, it works. 2 CP crit hit on 5s is really good. Aside from that Hive Tyrant, we've got triple Maleceptor. This is kind of the backbone of the list. It was 2 Maleceptors, 3 Exocrines for a very long time. And honestly, adding in that third Maleceptor just to have that extra durability really pays off. I don't think there was only one game between both GTs, between LVO and the Denver Open, where I lost all 3 Maleceptors. So just really great with that durability. 6-inch aura of -1 to hit is really good against any combat army like orcs or world eaters. And anyone who decides to get too close. And the 4-up invuln comboed with T11 and the doubling up on 5-up feel no pain is really what makes this list work. Other than that, we've got the double Exocrine for some fire support. We then have 2 Pyrovores, and these guys are in the list exclusively because I'm running 3 Maleceptors. The Maleceptor damage output is really middling because it's only AP2 and most of the time your opponent has cover. The Pyrovores are there to remove that cover, and they get to advance and shoot because of the Hive Tyrant, so they can actually get to the target that the Maleceptor wants to shoot. And once you remove that cover, that AP2 is actually meaningful, and suddenly the Maleceptors are doing basically just as much damage as the Exocrines, and sometimes even more so. Other than that, we have our entire Lictor package. Don't leave home without this. 3 Neurolictors and Deathleaper, lone ops that are really, really annoying for your opponent to kill, that also can play the battle shock game, flip primaries for you. And if your opponent is battle shocked and you get +1 to wound, you can suddenly crack through these high toughness targets that Tyranids are otherwise unable to deal with. So really enjoy having those in the list. Again, do not play without them, regardless of your detachment. And then finally, the secret sauce. Obviously, we got a Biovore for secondaries, but every Tyranid list has that. The secret sauce is the 2 melee warrior squads with the winged primes. The winged primes give the warriors sustained hits, and you go lethal hits as long as your opponent has more than 1 or 2 vehicles. Then you're going to go lethal hits against monsters and vehicles, and suddenly then you spend the 2 CP, you crit on 5s with lethal and sustained with like 42 attacks, and you just blender through anything. This is actually how you kill like C'tans and Land Raiders and other objects that Tyranids would otherwise not be able to kill. That's why they're in the list. People see tons of attacks at strength 5 for 1 damage, and they assume that that's your infantry blender. And yeah, they do that too. But legitimately, this is the unit that brings down the heaviest targets. That monolith, like that one LVO, if the Tyranid warriors had gotten in combat with that and spent the 2 CP, they would have dropped it on average. Like that's just how much damage they do. So yeah, anyways, let's get into the matchups because this is going to be an incredibly long video. But yeah, let's look at round 1. Okay, so round 1 was against my opponent Nathan M. Malenke. He is a college student that came here with a bunch of his college friends, and they really wanted to come to LVO because they've really only ever played against each other, and they thought that this would be a great experience to play against new people. And I 100% agree. Just travel out, make it to tournaments. That's how you make more friends, get better practice partners, and really just expand your group as well as your knowledge of the game. So Nathan is a really fun guy playing Gene Stealer Cult, but is a little newer to the game. This was only his 2nd tournament. But yeah, he's playing Gene Stealer Cults. He is running an Abominant, which of course attaches to 10 Aberrants, a Clamavis, Double Primus, Reductus Saboteur, and Sanctus with the Sniper Rifle. As his battle line, which is the core of Gene Stealer Cult, he's got 2 10-man Demo Charge Acolyte Hybrid squads. These guys are the tried and true, have yet to be nerfed, and with the FAQ, when they die and come back, they come back with their demo charges again. But they just one-shot pretty much anything in the game. He has 3 20-man Neophyte squads, all of them with seismic grenade launchers. And then he has, again, that 10-man Aberrants, followed by the Achilles Ridge Runner to help out, giving out that extra AP. And then finally, 10 Pure Strain Gene Stealers, which is a first time for me seeing those in GSC in a bit, but they are certainly not bad at all. Just again, buckets of dice. All right, so we've got our Day of Ascension going on with Tyranids versus the Gene Stealer cult. They have taken over their planet, called in the Star Children, and we've arrived to transform the Gene Stealers into their prophesized gods. Really fun bit of lore there, but we are playing the mission is priority targets, so there is a center objective right in that ruin in the center. Importantly, no magic boxes are allowed at LVO, so that center box, bottom floor, does not block line of sight. Anyone standing in that building can be shot. They will benefit from cover. But other than that, you see our deployments here. We each have our table corner, and as you can see, I basically deployed really heavily on just taking the left and right objectives. And currently what is inside that center box is Deathleaper with a Neurolictor. Nathan scouted forward with the Gene Stealers, but I believe he redeployed those to the right objective. So this must be right before we rolled for first turn. After the roll, Nathan did indeed get the roll for first turn, which I am more than okay with because we're playing priority targets, which has endgame scoring. With that first turn, Nathan drew behind enemy lines and area denial. So with that, both of those are pretty difficult to get, even with GSC. Yeah, even Gene Stealer Colt, with going first, he couldn't just pick up and deep strike in my deployment zone, so behind enemy lines is going to be difficult. Area denial is also going to be difficult because I happen to have Deathleaper and a Neurolictor smack in the middle, even within 3, so he'd have to kill both of them. And with his redeploy, the Gene Stealers were actually on the right end, so they weren't able to go to the center. And so instead, all he had were his 2 20-man Neophyte bricks, able to attack the center, and then he had Aberrants, which you can see infiltrated on the top left objective. And so they decided to engage. As you can see, I have my warriors in the top left. They're kind of screened out by Neurolictor and double Maleceptor, but his Aberrants decided to go in and they wanted to party. Despite having the -1 to hit and all of that having a 4-up invuln. But with that, he did do damage. I don't remember if he killed the Neurolictor. Alright, looks like he did kill the Neurolictor. However, with all of his shooting, Neophytes starting on the table, especially moving to get within 12 to be able to shoot at me with Lone Op, and then me having Stealth, meant that all of his seismic cannons were hitting Deathleaper on 6s. And so 2 Neophyte squads shooting into Deathleaper actually only did 3 damage to him. He didn't even drop below half. So that absolutely kept him outside of area denial. However, with behind enemy lines, he could get it after killing the Neurolictor if he piled into the warriors, which he elected to do. And then the warriors killed enough that they actually got back out of combat. They didn't kill the whole squad, but they killed like 4 of them, and he pulled the warriors back out of combat, which then meant on my turn the warriors could charge back in again and still have fights first and mop up the rest of those Aberrants alongside the Maleceptor. The other Maleceptor moved over and shot and killed his Reductus Saboteur that was on the top left objective. And other than that, my 2 Exocrines and Maleceptor went up and shot off his entire 20-man Neophyte brick that was kind of on the center right. Killed all of them. And he put his 10 Pure Strain Gene Stealers into a Neurolictor on the bottom right objective, put it down to 1 wound, and then the warriors came over and killed all of the 10 Pure Strain Gene Stealers there. The Gene Stealers did come back. You can barely see a little blip just top left of his home L is where he decided to put that blip, which is Pure Strains, and the 20 Neophytes actually failed. They rolled a 1 to come back. So then what you're seeing, obviously I did take fixed with deploy, teleport, homer, and assassinate, and it very quickly went into my favor, as without putting the neophytes in reserve for them to then come back down again and shoot, they really just don't do anything to me, especially if they're -1 to hit because of stealth. So what ended up happening was on his turn, he dropped in his 10-man Acolyte squad, and they bombed and killed, what was it? I still see all 5 monsters in this picture. So maybe they didn't... Oh, they killed all the warriors. They dropped in and killed the entire warrior brick that killed the Gene Stealers. But then on my turn, I was able to come around and kill off that squad plus their Primus with the Maleceptor and one with Neurolictor. They were battle shocked, so there was nothing they could really do about that. But I killed them down to a single man with the Neurolictor's attacks instead going into the Primus. So basically just preventing them from getting a squad back there. And then on the top left, he had a 20-man Neophyte squad, and I killed it down to 3 guys, and I decided to leave it at that rather than finish them off and allow them a chance to come back. And then Deathleaper just advanced out of the center building and got within 9 of that blip, which was the Pure Strains, and removed it. So with that, that meant that the Pure Strains were not coming back, and his Acolyte and Neophyte squad were not dead, so they couldn't roll to come back. And his other 20-man Neophyte squad unfortunately rolled a 1, so they weren't coming back either. And yeah, with that, I basically established dominant board control with Nathan having only... Tucker was the Gene Stealer cult player last week. Nathan having almost nothing in reserves aside from his single Acolyte squad. And he did have the sniper character who came down and shot out the Tyranid Prime out of the warrior squad, but then the bombs killed the whole squad anyways. Actually, I think the sniper even just did investigate signals. Yeah, so he turn 2, he drew investigate signals and assassinate. He really wanted to make sure that my character died, so he dropped the Acolyte bomb on the entire warrior squad and picked them up. But yeah, then on my turn 3, I was able to pick up his second Acolyte squad came in and I believe picked up another monster. Yeah, actually, that's right. His second Acolyte squad not only came in and picked up another monster, they came in and picked up 2. He killed a Maleceptor and Exocrine with split firing, which I thought was not the greatest idea, but then it didn't matter because he rolled a 12 and an 11 on his 2d6 for each monster number of shots and killed both of them. So sometimes you take a risk and it pays off, and it definitely did. He killed everything on my home objective, including the Biovore. All the flamers went into the Biovore, and he rolled hot there too. So killed the Biovore, killed a Maleceptor, killed an Exocrine. So if that's the kind of damage output he's doing while coming in from Deep Strike, made me a little terrified. This is a shot a little later in the game. I did pick up those 10 Neophytes and 10 Acolytes and the Primus, and they also rolled a 2 to come back, which really sucks for Nathan. And then we didn't even roll to see the other 2 units coming back. I think one Acolyte demo charge squad came back, but they're not going to have the rerolls. And he put the blip in my top left corner, where I could have turned around to go and remove it, but I would have had to leave the objective. And honestly, I didn't even need to do that. At this point, I had the game solidly in the bag as far as points, and there was just not much he could do. So even letting those Acolytes show up and bomb something, they could have killed my Neurotyrant or a Maleceptor, but the objective would still be mine, and then I would have just, killed most of him in return, and after using those one-use guns, they wouldn't have been able to do much. So yeah, pretty handily took this list apart. I killed his his one vehicle as well with that Maleceptor shooting. Very much ended up in my favor with a 100-point win to Nathan's 47. All right, so then that brings us into round 2. Tyranids are 1-0. And I am playing up against Tau. This would be versus Aaron Nafla. And his Tau list was certainly unconventional. He named the list Big Boy because he has a Taunar. So yeah, the list is Commander Farsight with Commander Shadowsun, Dark Strider, only a 3-man Crisis Suit squad, and they actually all have fusion blasters. So he basically just said he kills himself too much with the overcharged ions, and would rather just have the Meltas. So yeah, 9 Meltas on that Crisis Battlesuit squad. Double Ghost Keel, a Pathfinder team with the rail rifles, which are really strong. I hadn't gone up against too many of those before. Then he has double Piranha and triple stealth suits, followed by a Vespid team to do secondaries, and the big giant Taunar Supremacy armor itself at almost 800 points. This is just going to be a big giant boy who is toughness 13, 2-up armor save, 5-up invuln, 30 wounds, that Tyranids are really going to struggle against. But we'll see. We'll have to have put that to the test. All right, so here is Aaron Nafla's Tau list on his army tray. Very beautiful Tau. That blue really pops. We are playing the Ritual on Hammer and Anvil deployment. Always love playing shooting gun lines on Hammer and Anvil, but the Taunar makes this game interesting for sure. Yeah, let's get into our deployment. So he gave me the first terrain drop. I put the L on that center objective, and then he basically put crates and forest on the rest of the board to make it, really easy for him to shoot me. That's totally fine. This is the Ritual, so basically I measured 9 away, put a dice down. You can see one at the corner of that center L. There could be an objective there, and then 9 away from that is the center of that gazebo little thing that I put down, so I can put an objective in there. And 9 away from my home objective is that big giant cathedral, where I can put another objective in there. So yeah, totally fine with him basically saying the middle of the board is a shooting gallery, because I never really intended on going into the middle of the board. Fixed worked for me last game, and he was looking a little light on resources, so I went fixed again. Tau also gave up a ton of Bring It Down. So yeah, just went for Bring It Down and deploy Teleport Homers, and he went for Tactical. He did win the roll to go first and got Extend Battle Lines and deploy Teleport Homer. So he pushed forward and put the Taunar, which basically deployed on the line in the center, just walked forward 8, was barely able to touch that center objective to get him Extend Battle Lines. We then actually had to call a judge to see if that Taunar could see the Maleceptor behind the gazebo on that bottom left. Judge said could not, because of intersecting lines on the corners of those 2 buildings, which, yeah, that's what I thought as well. That's kind of how I placed them and why I put the Maleceptor there. But because the Taunar couldn't see anything, it ended up doing Teleport Homers in the center. So he got 3 points for Teleport Homer, 5 for Extend Battle Lines, and didn't really get to shoot anything. I think he had a Ghost Keel, got to shoot at a Maleceptor. I popped my free 5-up Feel No Pain, and he did 3 damage. And other than that, then it was my turn, where I got to push forward. I believe I killed a Piranha. Let's find out. Yeah, so here's a better look at my deployment zone. I did put both Exocrines in reserve because I really didn't want them to just die. I needed their shooting. And Tau can definitely just pick them up since they don't have an invuln. So basically all I gave him were Maleceptors to shoot. I tucked the warriors into buildings, which were bottom floor line of sight blocking, and scouted forward where basically I have Deathleaper and that Neurolictor just off of that center objective, ready to start ritualing. Yeah, so this is the end of my turn 1. He did, the previous picture was actually him after scout moves plus the Taunar move. But yeah, then he basically moved a Piranha forward to try and shoot Deathleaper. He didn't kill it. I think he did get one Melta through, but it did 4 damage. Deathleaper had 3 left. And then on my turn, the Warriors came out to kill the Piranha with the full intention of me using the CP to then overrun back behind the wall to keep the Warriors safe. But Deathleaper ended up really needing to CP reroll his charge into some stealth suits to then get on and contest that objective, because the Neurolictor succeeded at battle shocking the Taunar. And so with that, or no, because then I was planning on doing Shadow in the Warp, and with Deathleaper, I was really hoping that Deathleaper, I wanted him in the center of my opponent's forces, basically, to pop Shadow in the Warp pretty much immediately on turn 2. Deathleaper comboed with the Neurotyrant to make that all at -2, Tower Leadership 7 base. So suddenly he's taking Battle Shock tests at Leadership 9, with basically all the guys that he would have on objectives. And it worked. So what you see here is the Battle Shocks. His Ghost Keel at the top failed. He has some Stealth Suits in the Gazebo, which failed. His Taunar failed. Shadow Sun passed, but is only OC1, so she was contested by Deathleaper being on that objective. And that resulted in Aaron scoring 0 on primary. He then pulled Investigate Signals and Overwhelming Force. He dropped in his Crisis Suits in my top left corner, where his dice tray is currently at, and they did Investigate Signals there. And then, they're of course attached with Farsight. And then he had some Stealth Suits in the bottom right corner, which came over to do his second Investigate Signals, and then everything else shot. He did manage to kill Deathleaper, and at least half, I think he killed 5 Warriors from that Warrior squad in the center that is kind of exposed. And he tried, so basically the Taunar fired its rocket pods and its plasma arms at the Warriors and killed 5 of them. And then he fired his super gun at the Maleceptor, who did a 5-up Feel No Pain. Of the 2 shots, I saved 1 with the Invuln, and then the one that went through did 16 flat damage. But with the 5-up Feel No Pain, I took 11 of it, and I ended up with 3 wounds left. Oh, no, sorry. In this picture, it shows his Crisis Suits came down, and then he had his Vespids came into the other bottom left. So his Stealth Suit squad, I thought they went back, but maybe they were just screening out a Spore Mine, and they couldn't quite get wholly within 9 of that corner. But anyways, he did get 4 on Investigate. And Overwhelming Force, he did kill Deathleaper off of his home, or at least his first ritualized objective. So then it was my turn, and I knew it was time to go to work. I had a battle-shocked Taunar within 12 of a Neurolictor. So it was time to go to work, and I basically put my entire army for the turn into the Taunar. So after a Pyrovore stripped away cover, I then was able to shoot it with all 3 Maleceptors, both Exocrines, and the Hive Tyrant. And after all of that shooting, of its 30 wounds, I had dealt 22. One of which was from the Pyrovore. 7 of my 3 damage guns managed to get through its armor, because it did have either a 4-up or a 5-up, depending on if it was an Exocrine or Maleceptor. And I was wounding on 4s with lethal hits because it was battle shocked. So yeah, that was really lucky for me that it did fail. But again, I also positioned it pretty perfectly to pop Shadow in the Warp to make it Leadership 9. And the plan went off without a hitch. The melee warriors, which were hiding in the gazebo, made a 7-inch charge, which is what they needed to get into it. I also had the Hive Tyrant nearby for the free strat. But instead, I also charged in the Winged Prime plus 1 other warrior just to guarantee it, which was the remnants of the squad that got shot. And between both of them, they were easily able to finish off the last 8 wounds on the Taunar because I spent my 2 CP, gave them both lethal hits, crit on 5s with the sustained from the Prime. Yeah, I hadn't even rolled half the dice yet, and it was already dead. I think these guys could have taken probably 20 wounds off of it on their own. With him being at only 8 left, it was basically a sure thing. And yeah, it took my entire army, but turn 2, one-shot the Taunar. And yeah, here is a better shot of the table state. As you can see, I was basically able to get everyone around. The Maleceptor then at the top center was able to also, he was at exactly at 18 from the Taunar, and then he had a 6-inch charge into that Ghost Keel. My Hive Tyrant and a Neurolictor basically came around from the Cathedral to go kill Farsight with his Crisis Suits. And yeah, I did another ritual in the gazebo to make us another objective there. And that was just done with the Neurolictor. And yeah, so that's how this was at the end of my charge phase at turn 2. And then there he is. Just had to get the victory shot of him picking the Taunar up because Tyranids normally would not be able to kill such a thing. But that is what this list is meant to do, is kill things that Tyranids normally can't kill. And the plan, like I said, went off without a hitch. Worked fantastic. And it really helped that Tau, our leadership, base 7. And so then that combo of Deathleaper and Neurotyrant, with him not having any rerolls, telling him to basically make a 9 on 2d6, was going to be difficult. So yeah, with the Taunar gone, and it having only dealt 11 damage to a Maleceptor and killing 4 melee warriors, that was a significant blow to the Tau army, and honestly put me massively in the lead. However, on Aaron's turn 3, he did get 5 points on the ritual primary. He drew Assassinate and Defend Stronghold, which were perfect objectives for him to get, as I had my Hive Tyrant in combat with Farsight and friends, and the Hive Tyrant had only got 1 hit through that 4-up invuln, so he still had all of his Crisis Suits with Melta-Guns pointed right at the Hive Tyrant, including Farsight himself. And so he got that for Assassinate easily, and then basically with his 2 Ghost Keels and the Rail Rifles was able to mop up both primes plus the 7 remaining Tyranid warriors out of his backfield. So, and his Ghost Keel, which was in combat with the Maleceptor, I think it took 4 damage and then fell back and shot, because that's what Ghost Keels do. So that's how you see right here is the end of Aaron's turn 3. All right, and for the final shot of the game, as we are kind of wrapping up now, the Maleceptors were able to push through. He was able to finish off the Maleceptor that only had 3 wounds left from the original Taunar shooting, but he also managed to kill 1 Exocrine, and Farsight and friends managed to basically take out my home field, which was just the Biovore and Hive Tyrant and Neurolictor. And he actually lived with Farsight and a Crisis Suit left by the end of the game, which meant I did not get my full Bring It Down points, because I also was not able to finish off the last Ghost Keel, but I was able to keep Aaron at a total of only 10 points on primary, basically securing me the game, because I was able to get a 15 on primary from turn 3 on, with basically the center, my first ritual objective and my second ritual objective that I made in the gazebo. So yeah, that was a Tyranid victory. I got really lucky that, I mean, if the Taunar had passed, I probably don't kill it without that +1 to wound. So if he had just naturally rolled a leadership 9, I probably would have done other things with that turn, but I was very much banking on that being the way that I can kill it in one go. And if the Taunar was still alive on turn 3, when he suddenly gets sustained hits 2, it's suddenly picking up 3 units a turn, and I just absolutely couldn't have that. So very lucky that I killed it turn 2, and that basically is what won me the game. Aaron did still play very well, very strategically. He managed to get himself a lot of secondaries still throughout the rest of the game. I just was able to get him off of all of the objectives. His making it where there was no terrain in the middle of the table eventually ended up backfiring, because with the Taunar gone, my Maleceptors and Exocrines were actually the decisive firepower on the battlefield. So, yeah, great game, but Tyranids won, and I am now up 2-0. All right, so round 3, I was on stream. I got to be on Joe's Wargames live stream, which means I'm not going to talk about my game here. Instead, I want you guys to go and watch that. I will be doing spoilers, so I'm going to give you guys I'm going to give you my opponent's list. But then you guys need to go over to Joe's Wargames Live and watch the game on stream, because it was once again an absolutely incredible banger of a game. I went up against Scott Ketchum and his sisters, and seriously, go watch it. And you have until the end of me going through Scott's list before I will be spoiling the outcome. All right, so round 3 is against Scott Ketchum. He is probably the best not best tier, he is the best Sisters player, at least that I've heard of. He seems very well known in the Sisters community and was certainly fighting for top Sisters. So he's running what I would assume is a meta Sisters list. I've only played Sisters once before this, but it was a very similar list, and it is what I've seen other people playing, so I'm assuming it's the meta. Maybe it's meta because of him. I don't know. But he's got the Dialogus. This guy is really cool because its datasheet ability is when you use a Miracle Die, it counts as a 6. Then he's got Morven Vol, just incredible character that joins in with some Paragon Warsuits and gives full rerolls to hit and wound with them, and one of the best characters point for point in the game. Then the Palatine, also absolutely incredible character, has the enhancement of the Blade of St. Eleanor. What this does is this is just a really good combat blade. It's a power sword, but when you are below half health, you get +2. So it originally gives you +1 strength and attack, I believe, and maybe damage. But then once you are below half, it's +2 strength, attack, and damage. And then he combos that with a datasheet ability where if you spend a Miracle Die of any value, then any wound deals an additional mortal. That means this Palatine, because Sisters have a strat where if you kill a character, they can toss a Miracle Die, spend a CP, and the character stands back up with 1 wound. And if you have killed it in melee, then that means that it stands up at the end of the phase, and then it gets an entire turn to punch you back, because it stands back up at the end of the phase, just outside of engagement range, and then it gets to charge back in, punch you back, and at 1 wound, it gets the full combo of +2 strength, attacks, damage, and spend another fate die for mortals. Yeah, so that means that this thing is basically doing 5 damage attacks, and then even if you save them, you're still taking 1 damage from that. Is really good. Then he's also got the Triumph, which of course is in every Sisters list. You just kind of have to have it. 125 points gets you just everything. It's toughness 3 with 18 wounds, which means that people want to throw big stuff at it, but then it also has a 4-up invuln and fate dice, and one of its auras is a 6-up feel no pain. Another one of its auras is use every fate die possible, or use as many miracle dice as you would like, rather than just 1. And so it can use that on itself and just basically spend a bunch of 4s and pass any, las cannon damage shots that would be coming its way. It's so good. Everything about it is so good. It's also just like 6 Canonesses on, smashed together, so it gets like 18 Power Sword attacks, which is just really good. And then let's see, outside of that, he's got the Battle Sister Squad, and the Battle Sister Squad combos with the Dialogus and the Triumph, and what this combo allows you to do is you have the Triumph nearby to say you can use as many Miracle Dice as you want, and the Dialogus flips all of those Miracle Dice to 6s, and then you have the Multi-Melta and Meltagun in the Battle Sister Squad, basically paired up with the Palatine, who gives them lethal hits, and you just say, here's 3 miracle dice on my 3 Meltagun shots. They're all 6s. That means they auto wound because of lethal hits. And here's 3 more miracle dice. They are all 6 damage, which goes to 8 because I'm in Melta range. And here's 24 damage that that I did without having to roll dice. It's really strong. The unit also just generates you more miracle dice by standing on an objective, and it has a cherub, which is when they expend a miracle die, which they're definitely going to do, you just get one back. You get it like refunded. Yeah, it's a really good combo, and most people don't know about it because Sisters is not a super popular army that's out and about, even though it is good. Then they've got double Rhino, just holds a bunch of infantry. Followed by the 30 Arco-Flagellants, which are what go in those Rhinos. Sometimes I'm sure Battle Sisters go in as well, but Arcos are insane. They don't have an armor save, but they're 2 wounds and with a 4-up Feel No Pain, and then they deal out 60 twin-linked Strength 5 attacks with sustained hits whenever they fight, and they're on 25s, so they can basically just get wherever they want. The Rhino helps them get there. Yeah, they're insane for their points, and 30 of them are in most competitive Sisters lists. Then we've got a Castigator, which is a bit more of a unique choice. This is basically just like a weird Predator tank. It's got a battle cannon on top with lots of heavy bolters and a Hunter Killer. The battle cannon is flat 3 damage, so pretty good. Then he's got a bunch of 2-man Crusader squads. These go in Rhinos, and one of them outflanks, and they basically just do secondary game because it's just a 2-man unit for 25 points. Then he's got double Exorcist, the dreaded, probably one of the best indirect platforms in the game, aside from, I think, Night Spinners probably beat them, but other than that, I'd rank Exorcist as second best. Yeah, just really strong indirect fire tanks. And then the Paragon Warsuits, these are really good when paired with Morven Vol. They need the full hit and wound rerolls to really pop off, but with Morven Vol, they get that, and they just form this really solid unit for 325 points that basically is really difficult to kill because they all have a 2-up save and a 4-up invuln and 4 wounds apiece. And it's just a really awkward profile at toughness 6 that there's not really another equivalent to it in the game, especially when you can use Fate dice or Miracle dice. Sorry, Sisters players. It's going to be hard for me to not say Fate dice. I play against Eldar way more than I play against Sisters. But anyways, then he's got triple Seraphim squad plus a Zephyrim squad. So just 4 backpack units that fly around and make it really easy for him to movement block or score the secondary game. Lots of cheap units. Every unit that dies gives you a miracle die, and yeah, it's just Sisters are really good, and people are sleeping on them, but I think it's also they're a very expensive army to collect, very similar to Admech. Plus they're new, so difficult to get a full army, but Scott, he plays basically exclusively them, so he's a really good player, and you guys can go watch the War Games live, and I'm about to jump to Game 4. I'm just going to skip over the rest of this, and go watch the War Games live stream. Again, link in the description below. Thanks. All right, so round 4. You guys are going to be looking at the screen and be like, wait, I thought I saw my screen change, but this looks the same. You're right, it does look the same. My round 4 is against Richard Grint, who is basically playing an identical list to Scott Ketchum's Sisters that I just played in round 3. So I think there's maybe 200 points of difference in this list. Richard basically only has 2 Seraphim squads, and he dropped the extra Seraphim squad and extra Zephyr squad for a second Battle Sister squad, and that allowed him to upgrade his second Rhino to an Immolator, because he also dropped 2 of the Crusaders squads, and his Castigator has an auto cannon instead of a battle cannon. Other than that, identical list. Yeah, so really good. Really good list. I'm I'm not going to go through the entire thing again, but still 30 Arcos, double Battle Sister this time with the Triumph. The same Palatine, Morvenball and Friends, double Exorcist. Still have the Castigator, just with a autocannon instead of a battle cannon. There you go. That's the list. So this is now the first round of day 2. We are playing Sites of Power, which I'm not super thrilled about. Sisters have a lot of characters that stick around because even after you kill them, they can stand back up. And that Triumph is basically unkillable with just such an awkward profile and unlimited miracle dice. So Sites of Power against this army is certainly going to be a tough one. All right, so yeah, we are playing Sites of Power with Hammer and Anvil deployment, and playing against Richard Grint, who, really fun guy, came all the way over from Denmark. He knew Scott, so apparently they are both at least fellow Sisters players, and at least he knew of Scott. I don't know if Scott knew of him, but being from Denmark, very excited that he made the trip all the way across the pond, and that this was his first LVO, and he seemed to be doing very well. So yeah, he is playing his Sisters, and now that I have just played this game against Scott, I'm feeling reasonably confident about the capabilities of Richard's list. And so he won and elected to take the first deployment and put the big chaos blob in the center of the table. And after playing against Scott and feeling how kind of anemic his anti-tank shooting was, I basically elected to just put crates on the other 2 objectives and then deploy all my monsters on the line with full intention to bomb rush him. Yeah, so that was basically the intent on this one. I just knew I couldn't let him set up characters on the center objectives and just score within power, so I just wanted to rush him and try and kill as much as I could before he built up too many miracle dice, which would then help him to actually take out my monsters. And yeah. Did want to get some nice close-ups of Richard's models because they were absolutely gorgeous. I don't know if this is a specific Sisters color scheme, but everything about this army is beautiful, and can't believe he was able to take something like this across the Atlantic. So very happy he did. And yeah, here's a picture of just his Battle Sisters. Then we've got one of the Triumph, which is just incredible models. So yeah, just give you guys a few seconds to admire. Then we will be on with the game. So Richard did get to go first, and we had elected to both go with Tactical. Richard had drawn Cleanse and Engage, and he didn't have any scout moves or any infiltrators, so with that, Cleanse and Engage was going to be tough. Basically, he moved up he had Arcos get out of his Rhino, come forward to charge Deathleaper and Neurolictor, which I had deployed in the center, which is what you see here. And then he had his Immolator move up onto the top objective, and his 10-man Battle Sister squad got into the Rhino that the Arcos just got out of, and then that pushed forward onto the center objective. He then shot his Immolator into my Neurolictor on the top objective, put it down to 1 wound, and then charged the Arcoflagellants into these guys, the Neurolictor and Deathleaper, and charged the Immolator into the 1 wound Neurolictor, tank shocked it, and finished off that final wound. Deathleaper did manage to survive, however, and I think I killed maybe 3 or 4 Arcos in return. And I was totally okay with losing a Neurolictor, and I did lose my second Neurolictor from those Arcos, but Deathleaper survived. And I was okay with this trade because now he had a Rhino, a Immolator with 5 Battle Sisters, and the Rhino with 10 Battle Sisters plus 10 Arcos all in the center, easy pickings for my entire army. And that's what I did. I managed to pop both the Rhino and the Immolator up top. Because I'd also drawn Engage and no prisoners. And And with a Biovore, engage was relatively easy. I just put a Spore Mine down on the bottom left of the screen that you can see. My warriors came out to kill the Arcos. This time I had CP and I decided not to spend 2 CP like I did against Scott, so that way the warriors could just feel no pain against the Arcos' Flight on Death, making it where I only lost 2 warriors instead of the 6 that I lost against Scott. Scott, I think, also rolled really well. But yeah, so I only lost 2 warriors on the Fight on Death, and I managed to get the full 5 on no prisoners, having killed the Arcos, the Rhino, and the Immolator. And I killed 7 of the sisters from his 10-man Battle Sister squad, giving me a pretty comfortable turn 1. Especially considering Richard had gotten a 0 on secondaries on his turn because he didn't have any units to cleanse and he was unable to get engage on turn 1. So I was feeling pretty good there. My Maleceptor did charge into the 5 sisters as well. That got out of the Immolator and made that charge. So managed to tie up those Meltaguns, which made me feel pretty decent. And then came back Richard's clapback turn, and I did not feel so decent anymore after that. I knew I was going to lose a fair amount because same kind of thing. I'd put pretty much my entire army in front of him, but after the game against Scott, I figured his damage with, at this point, he had 3 Miracle Dice, one of which was a 6, but that was all he had. It was like a 6, a 3, and a 4. So I didn't think he was too souped up in terms of Miracle Dice, but on his turn, he just rolled absolutely insane. Everything came on the board. The Castigator and Morven Ball came on his side out of outflank just to provide additional firepower. The Arcos came out, and between the Arcos and the Triumph, managed to clean up the rest of the warriors in the middle of the board. So, the warriors in the middle of the board died to Arcos and the Triumph. And Morven Vol basically came out and one-shot my Maleceptor on that objective that went to go tie up the Battle Sisters. He rolled 6 multi-melta shots, got 5 wounds because of full rerolls, even though he's hitting on 4s, wounding on 5s. I got 5 wounds, and I only made 1 invulnerable save, and that meant I took 22 damage. Feel no pain wasn't even enough to save that, so Maleceptor just got one shot by that unit. And then in addition to that, a Exorcist managed to one-shot my Exocrine, which was on my home objective. And then the other Exorcist managed to one-shot my Neurotyrant on my home objective. So that was pretty intense, and suddenly my home objective had nobody on it because I put my Biovore in the far corner because I did not want to lose it like I did against Scott, and because we're Hammer and Anvil, I was actually able to hide it out of range. But that meant he just went for the Neurotyrant instead and managed to one-shot it, so that hurt a lot. He also managed to charge the Palatine and remaining Battle Sisters into my Maleceptor and took a decent chunk off of it, but I think it's at 6. It is 1 wound away from degrading, but yeah, he also did 8 damage there. So that was a hell of a clapback. He killed 870 points in that turn with the Warriors, the Exocrine, the Maleceptor, the Neurotyrant. He killed 2 Maleceptors because he also killed... I don't even know what killed it. What else did he have? I guess the Meltaguns with the Triumph. That little combo. He had a multi... All he had left was Palatine Dialogus Multi-Melta after I shot and killed the Rhino, but that's all you need. The Multi-Melta, 2 shots, use those 2 Miracle Dice. One is a 6 and one is a 4, and then I failed the Invulns and just died. So yeah, he killed 2 Maleceptors, Exocrine, Neurotyrant. So that's 4 monsters plus my warriors all in one turn. Even my Hive Tyrant is down to 4 wounds left. That turn was just absolutely insane and put me on such a bad back foot. There was pretty much nothing I could do to recover from it, and I haven't even had a turn 2 yet. Richard also managed to cleanse because he had he had some Arcos that decided to cleanse on the bottom, and he had 2 random Crusaders cleanse the middle. And his extend battle lines was pretty easy for him to get. And then on my turn, I drew Tempting Target and Extend Battle Lines, and I no longer had my home objective, so I didn't get primary at all. And I also drew Extend Battle Lines, which I couldn't get, so I had Deathleaper run back there to get my home objective for Extend. But then I just didn't realize that the Triumph was OC6, so I didn't pile in my warriors in a way to take that center objective back for Extend. I thought OC8 was enough. But he had one Crusader, the Triumph, and a 1-wound Arco left at the end of the turn. Basically, in shooting, I put that Arco squad down to a single guy with 1 wound. And then I shot the 1-wound guy with my Hive Tyrant and did like 7 damage to him, and he was just fine. So whatever. 4-up Feel No Pains are good. But yeah, so he lived with 1 wound. I did like 6 damage to the Triumph, and yeah, I mean, Mortarion is OC5, so I did not think that the Triumph had more OC than a Demon Primarch, but I guess it does. And I should have just asked, and I didn't. So I put 8 OC on the objective thinking it was mine, and it was not, so I actually did not get Extend Battle Lines. And Tempting Target he put on the top, which I was never going to get anyways. And yeah, so my turn, like, I killed stuff, but I didn't kill nearly what he had killed of mine in his turn 2. And then we get to his turn 3, where he straight up just tables me before I even have my turn 3. So his Exorcists managed to pick up my Exocrine in the back, as well as the Maleceptor. Morven Vol and friends so the Exorcists picked up the Exocrine. Morven Vol and friends moved forward to take on the Hive Tyrant. And he also had the remnants of his other Battle Sister squad, which was, again, a Sergeant with crossbow, a Canoness with crossbow, and a Multi-Melta. And he shot those at the Hive Tyrant. I popped Feel No Pain, and even he was like, it's just 2 sisters plus a Canoness. And I'm like, I know, but you're also going to shoot Vol, so I want the 5-up Feel No Pain. He fires 2 Psychic Crossbows at me. They both get sustained hits and become 4 Dev Wounds, because Anti-Psyker 2-up. So that was just kind of hilarious. And then the Multi-Melta hits and wounds me. I fail to save. He Miracle dies at 8 damage. Hive Tyrant goes down to just that. Freeing up Morven Vol and friends to also pick up then the Maleceptor. Yeah, this is going downhill so fast. I already used the Feel No Pain strat on the Hive Tyrant, and now the Hive Tyrant is dead. So then he fires the Castigator with autocannon at my warriors, and that is a perfect profile to kill me when I can't 5-up Feel No Pain. So he just picks up that entire squad with just the autocannon, and then he had his 2 Seraphim squads Deep Strike on my home and pick up Deathleaper, and the final Exorcist picked up the final Biovore, while his 3rd and final squad of Arcos managed to kill the last Pyrovore and Neurolictor, and I was out of models before I got to play my turn 3. So, very, very different game than my game against Scott, which is really just crazy considering it's basically the exact same list. But obviously I played slightly differently, and yeah, it did not work out for me. So you win some, you lose some, and I definitely lost that one. I got a total of 8 points, so that is not great at all. And yeah, so I lose to Richard, who does end up going on to go 5-1. So well done, props to him. And again, gorgeous army. Hope he had a safe flight home. All right, on to round 5. So round 5 is an interesting one because it is supply drop, where the primary missions begin disappearing on turn 4, and they gain more points. And by the time you're at turn 5, you have a big, giant 15-point objective for primary. So you really want bottom of turn in this mission. And I mean, as long as you have bottom of turn, if you can keep primary somewhat even, and then basically, or even just keep it where nobody scores any primary the whole game, then score 15 at the end of the game, you just pretty much guaranteed win. Which is very good for me because I got paired into Ava Regalado. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce that last name, but Ava, wonderful woman. She has apparently been playing since 2nd edition, but is just now getting back into the game after a bit of a hiatus. So welcome back, Ava. Very happy to have you. Is apparently a part of Xenos Petting Zoo, a very incredible and friendly team out in California, mostly in California. But yeah, she is running Iron Hands Iron Storm. So this is a fairly typical competitive Iron Storm Spearhead detachment, which is literally the worst matchup possible for Tyranids. Maybe Chaos Knights might be beating that, but I actually think it's the Iron Storm because they've got the speed and firepower in addition to all of the tough vehicles. So Ava's list is certainly pretty much the last thing I want to see on the table, but she's running a Lieutenant with Combi Weapon with the Flesh is Weak enhancement. I believe that just gives him a Feel No Pain. Followed by double Tech Marine, one with the Target Augury Web, which gives out an aura of lethal hits, and the other one with Adept of the Omnissiah, which I believe is the Blanket Damage. Both absolutely incredible auras. The only thing I would change if I was running this list would be to change the Lieutenant Combi Weapons enhancement of Feel No Pain. If you could somehow find the points, maybe even drop a Scout Squad to get maybe even a 3rd Tech Marine, but get that Assault enhancement. Assault aura would be fantastic. But anyways, the list, obviously 3 characters. She's running a Gladiator Lancer, followed by double Plasma Inceptors, pretty standard. 5 Infiltrators, joined by that Lieutenant with the Lone Op ability, so that entire Infiltrator squad screens out Deep Strikers and is Lone Op and is just really obnoxious to deal with. Followed by double Redemptor Dreadnoughts with Plasma, I mean the way you run them. Followed by triple Repulsor Executioner. These things are just guns stacked on guns, stacked on guns. Toughness 12 with, 14, maybe 16 wounds? Yeah, 16 wounds, toughness 12. Not what Tyranids want to see. Followed by double Scout Squad. And finally, a Calidus Assassin to Vect. Pretty much everything Tyranids do not want to see, but thankfully, we are playing a mission where it pays to just hide, and that was kind of my game plan. All right, so like I said, hiding was kind of my game plan, but then, I don't know, I just decided not to. Just started deploying kind of aggressively with like, here you can shoot my Maleceptors, don't shoot anything else. And then that ended up, like, I did take fixed with deploy Teleport Homers, and I figured if I just deploy Teleport Homer and Ava's list only has the Scouts and Calidus to do secondaries, if they ever extend too far out that I'm able to just pick them up, then I can basically win the secondary game by just hiding. And if Ava ever sends out vehicles to get me, then I could kill them for bring it down points just to basically ensure that I still have the score tied up until end of the game. And worst case scenario, if I do end up going first, then at least on turn 5, I can pop Shadow in the Warp. So keeping the Neurotyrant alive until the end of the game was my absolutely essential plan. And then basically just pray and hope that Deathleaper is still alive as well, keeping all of it on whichever objective was the final one. And then, just pray that they fail battle shock checks and then won't be able to take that final objective. So that was kind of my game plan for how to handle this. And then Ava deployed so incredibly aggressively that I just kind of matched and said, well, hey, you're probably killing a monster a turn, at least. But maybe I can return the favor, and if I can do if I do go first and I'm able to pick up even one vehicle and then run away and hide, then that would help me out in the long run. and maybe I lose one monster in return, but the vehicles are certainly more expensive than my monsters, so that's kind of where I suddenly ended up thinking. But yeah, Ava deployed so aggressively that it just kind of turned into a coin flip, where I had the top left objective and Ava hard deployed on the bottom right objective. And then we just put all of our guns right at the middle of the table, where turn one, we'd basically be able to just open fire on each other. Luckily, I don't know about luckily. I did win the roll to go first, which in my overall game plan, I did not want. But in my, let's see if I hit you first and maybe kill a tank game plan, then that did actually work out. So what ended up happening was I got first turn, moved everyone out to be able to see the Repulsor Executioner. I was really hoping it would fail Battle Shock from a Neurolictor. It did not. That's fair. She only needed a 6. And yeah, so I lined up the Pyrovore to remove cover. The only buildings that are bottom floor line of sight blocking are these giant ones, which are on the 2 side objectives. The thing that was huge is when we rolled for the objectives disappearing, the center is the one that was going to disappear turn 4, and the bottom right is the one that was going to disappear turn 5, meaning the top left, which was my objective, basically based on deployment, is the one that's going to stick around. So honestly, the smart play here would have just been go hide on that corner and just fight over the middle, but I don't know. I just didn't. I decided to go for the punch, and I kept telling myself I was going to run back and hide later. And so I just wanted to basically hit turn 1 and then run away and hide. The important thing here is I did put both of my melee warrior units in reserve. So I honestly felt totally okay with just trading punches here. And basically, I was just going to outflank all my warriors. If Ava ever sent out a lone vehicle by itself, then the warriors could go eat it. But otherwise, they would just stack up on that final objective. And I was totally okay trading blows over the center for pretty much the entire game. The longer I keep Ava in her deployment zone, the better for me. And so, yeah, basically, I have a Lictor that's tangling with 5 scouts and 5 infiltrators on the bottom right. And then our tanks just trading blows. But yeah, Pyrovore removed cover from a Repulsor Executioner, and then I lined up every single monster to be able to shoot at it with a Maleceptor able to charge it. And a second Maleceptor, if I happened to roll an 11, would have made the charge as well. But things very quickly went south when the opening salvo was my Exocrine shot the Repulsor Executioner, got 3 wounds through, dealing 9 damage, putting it down to 7. And Ava spent her 1 CP for the turn to just shoot me back and one-shot the Exocrine. So that was a wake-up call of just how much firepower this list has. I mean, I knew it in the back of my mind, but experiencing that before she's even had a turn, she's already picked up one of my 5 monsters, was making me realize just how much I was playing with fire with this strategy. That being said, I was fully committed, so and I did take fixed with Teleport Homer and bring it down, so I shot a Spore Mine up into that top, top center edge of Ava's deployment zone. I was able to fit there and get a Teleport Homer. And yeah, I mean, it sucked, but that Executioner only had 7 wounds left, and I really had to finish it off. So I fired all the other Exocrine and all 3 Maleceptors, and after doing that, it still had 4 wounds left. So the first Exocrine did 9 wounds and then died, and then every other model only managed to get 1 wound through for another 3 damage, leaving it alive at 4. So then it was on to contingency plan, where I charged the Maleceptor in, and then just as double contingency plan, I charged in my Neurolictor, which also had the added benefit of tagging the other Repulsor Executioner. Now, obviously, this is more for the -1s to hit for keeping it in combat. I don't actually stop it shooting at all because none of its weapons are blast, but at least making it -1 to hit, which could offset with stealth and everything else, the +1 to hit that she gets from Tech Marines. I then did sweep attacks from the Maleceptor because it had 4 health left, and I was really just fishing for lethal hits. I wounded on 5s regardless of if I sweep or smash. So I was really just hoping Ava would fail 2 4-ups. Like, I would get 2 lethal hits. Obviously, I was stretching here, but I end up doing 2 lethal hits, but Ava makes 1. So puts the Repulsor down to 2 wounds, and then the Neurolictor decided to be an all-star. Get 1 lethal hit plus 1 6. Ava fails both 5-ups, and the Repulsor Executioner dies exactly, which was absolutely huge because with Tech Marines and everything, that could have healed up. She could have fought on full without any penalties for 1 CP. And having a whole nother Executioner with basically me losing an Exocrine without actually killing anything of hers would have been terrible for my turn 1. But yeah, so I do get 4 for bringing it down for killing a 16 wound vehicle, as well as 4 for deploy teleport Homer. However, I lost my own Exocrine for my turn 1. And then we get to Ava's turn 1, where she draws some secondaries and pulls engage in all fronts and deploy teleport Homer. Not the secondaries you want to see when you are, on your first turn. And she's not an especially mobile army. She has tons of stuff that is in reserve, but nothing that could get it turn 1. So, yeah, unfortunately that was awful secondaries for her. So she ends up blanking those and decides just to make up for not scoring points by just killing me. Unleashes everything into me. Gives out the +1s to hit, and very first shot is a Repulsor Executioner firing everything at my other Exocrine, and ends up wasting all the extra shots because the big gun just picks it up even through the Feel No Pain, no problem. The other thing that happened was that first Exocrine that shot and then got immediately shot back, of course it also exploded and dealt mortal wounds to my Maleceptor and Exocrine. So yeah, we were off to a real great start. But yeah, then next, Repulsor Executioner just firing the big gun, one-shots the Exocrine despite the Feel No Pain. Didn't matter. It still died. Thankfully didn't explode. And then the rest of her list shot at the Maleceptor that had charged in, that was right in front of her. I popped Feel No Pain there and just rolled crazy hot and did not take hardly any damage at all. From the second Repulsor Executioner. Like, I took 6 damage, but considering the potential, I took very little. So then Ava swapped tactics after she's now fired both of her remaining Repulsor Executioners. The first one picked up the Exocrine, no problem. The second one put everything into the Maleceptor, and after the Feel No Pain and the Invulns, it had only taken 6 damage. So then Ava decided to switch tactics and not shoot the one with the 5-up Feel No Pain, and put the Gladiator Lancer as well as both Redemptor Dreads into the other Maleceptor. And I believe she killed it. She either killed it or she put it down to 2. It was very close, but I believe she killed it. Yeah, no, she 100% killed it. Sorry, I'm remembering now. Because that meant that at the end of turn 1, I had killed 1 Repulsor Executioner, and she had killed both Exocrines and a Maleceptor. Which means that for my turn 2, it was time for me to run away. At least that's what I kept telling myself, except suddenly my Neurolictor actually successfully battle-shocked her Repulsor Executioner that was in the center. And I could not pass up having +1 to wound and not allowing her to Armor of Contempt or shoot back. So I decided to just keep going anyways. Even though I no longer had Maleceptors, I literally had less than half of the monsters that I had in the previous turn to try and kill one. And I killed it literally to a wound last time. But now I had +1 to wound, and I was hoping that was going to be enough. So I just pushed forward anyways, and like I said, I was really just hoping maybe we just fight this out for the next 3 turns, and then I end up winning because the game just kind of handed me the 15 primary objective, and I can just, basically force Ava to keep fighting here. So what you don't see is I did bring in my melee warriors on the top left, just from reserve. I just put them behind the building, and they're planning on moving on to that objective turn 3. and I fired everything into the battle-shocked Repulsor Executioner. Ava did spend the CP to try and shoot me back, but then I reminded her, you can't, you're battle-shocked. And after shooting in both Maleceptors, as well, the Pyrovore to remove cover, both Maleceptors with +1 to wound, so I was wounding it on 4s. I think it, once again, had 4 health left. And then this time I charged in the 1 Maleceptor plus Deathleaper. And exact same thing happened. The Maleceptor put it down to, I think, 4. And then Deathleaper managed to get the last 2 hits in. Being strength 7 with +1 to wound, Deathleaper was actually wounding this thing on 4s, hitting on 2s, lethal on 6s. I think I even used the free strat from the Hive Tyrant to crit on 5s. And after all of that, I killed the Repulsor Executioner exactly down to the last wound. So same thing. If Ava had made 1 more save, I would have been in serious trouble, because then that thing unbattle shocks. She has a Tech Marine heal it. She spends a CP to fight on full. It gets real bad real quick for me. But yeah, so this is what the board looks like at the end of my turn 2. I think I actually declared Shadow in the Warp right now because I had Deathleaper right in her home field. This was not for literally the only reason for this was just hoping to battle shock 1 more vehicle and have enough guys alive to be able to kill that vehicle with +1 to wound next turn. This was not to take away primary or anything like that. It was basically just to say, stop powering up with stratagems and give me +1 to wound, please. Because I am running out of stuff to kill you, even though I am killing just exactly what I need. So based on this, looks like she failed with a Redemptor, the Scouts down in the bottom right corner, and I think the Lancer up at the top also failed. But importantly, 1 Redemptor and 1 Repulsor Executioner passed. I did give... She did get 5 primary for holding the bottom right, because even though the Scouts failed, there were also Infiltrators on that objective. So that one is certainly hers. And then she drew Investigate Signals and No Prisoners. So No Prisoners is obviously easy, just kill stuff. You were planning on doing that anyways. Investigate Signals, interestingly enough, was going to be kind of hard for her to do, because if you can see in the top right corner, I did put a Spore Mine down to do my Teleport Homer, which was actually preventing her from bringing in her Scouts, which she picked up, to be able to do secondaries there. So instead, her Scouts had to go in my home corner, right next to my Neurotyrant, who was she was able to put him there just outside of Overwatch range, and then she had the Calidus show up in the top left and deploy Teleport Homers there, or Investigate Signals. So she got the 2 corners, both of them on the left end of the map right here. Actually, she got 6. So it basically meant that in order to do her home corner, she actually had to put the Inceptors there because of the Spore Mine. And I was honestly okay with that. It meant that the Inceptors were all the way in her corner of her deployment zone, basically as far away as possible from any primary missions. And so I was totally okay with that. It did get her 2 points, though. And it's not like they were going to be out of the fight with how I was pushing, but they at least are more out of the fight than they otherwise would have been. And yeah, then in Ava's shooting, I believe she killed Deathleaper as well as the wounded Maleceptor, or it might have only been Deathleaper and a Pyrovore. Now that she's down to 1 Repulsor Executioner, her firepower is a lot more, and all I have left are models with 4-up invulns, at least in terms of monsters. Her damage potential becomes a lot more swingy, because it's just the 1 Repulsor Executioner and the Lancer. Both of those are really high damage attacks, but only 2 shots, which through a 4-up invuln are, just really swingy. So I do believe all the little guns killed the Pyrovore and Deathleaper, and then I managed to, with CP rerolls and Feel No Pains, survive the big guns, but just barely. Like, I think 1 was down to 6 and 1 was down to 3. Because again, I popped the Feel No Pain on the first one, and then it lived, but because of the Feel No Pain with it living, Ava decided to swap to the other one that didn't have a Feel No Pain, and I couldn't put it on there because of the Calidus vecting that strat. So, yeah, I don't think Ava was playing incorrectly here at all, but it did mean both Maleceptors lived, although I think one of them was degraded and the other one was at like 6. Maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe she should have had one more no prisoners point. It does look like the Maleceptor has died. And I'm pretty sure the Pyrovore and Deathleaper died. Or no, Deathleaper survived. That's what it was. The Maleceptor and the Pyrovore died. Deathleaper actually lived with 4 wounds left, and then ran back into the center ruin. So he is there with a Neurolictor right now, hiding out in that center ruin. As you can see, my second squad of warriors came in on the left, just 9 inches away from the Calidus, which showed up in the corner to investigate signals. My Neurotyrant went back towards the scouts that is in the bottom left corner that you can't see, but went and flamed those scouts, rolled like 9 shots, 6 wounds. She only had a 5-up save, and she had to save 2 of them. She only saved 1, so Neurotyrant picked up that entire 5-man scout squad. It's really good at that. And I decided to keep pushing forward. I was really just hoping to kill the Lancer, because if all Ava has, like, I'm not going to kill the other Repulsor Executioner. I don't have enough stuff left, but the Lancer is pretty squishy, and I do have the +1 to wound on it. So between Hive Tyrant, Maleceptor, and the +1 to wound, I was hoping to be able to kill it. Unfortunately, I was unsuccessful, and I think I did 6 damage to it, bringing it down to 6. Charged in, completely whiffed. The Hive Tyrant charged, failed. Free strat reroll, failed. So the Lancer got to live in combat with the Maleceptor with 6 wounds left. And that was basically it for the turn. I did score the 10 on primary for holding the middle and the top left. And unfortunately I screwed up and I put the score in on mission 6 rather than mission 5. So the primary got a little wonky in terms of like trying to score it, but it didn't matter until turn 4 and 5 when, the primary points change, and it really only mattered for turn 4 where the objectives were worth 8. But yeah, basically give each player 3 more points for holding their objective on turn 4. But yeah, so this was me. Like I said, I failed to kill the Lancer, and this was my first kind of unsuccessful turn. However, the warriors did make their 9-inch charge into the Calidus and picked her up. And again, the Neurotyrant managed to flame and pick up the entire scout squad. So Ava is still entirely on her half of the table, far away from the 15-point primary objective. So then we get to Ava's turn 3. She does get the 5 points for holding the bottom right objective. And then pulls Secure No Man's Land and Tempting Target. I, of course, tempt her with the top left, which I don't think she has any way of getting to this turn, as I have a Neurolictor there with a whole squad of warriors behind the wall. As you can see, the Lancer is in combat with the Maleceptor. So Ava decides it's finally go time to push out, and basically brings everything to bear, shoots everything at my Hive Tyrant, who I believe lives with 3 wounds left after shooting, but she also manages to kill the Neurolictor and Deathleaper in that center ruin, and basically clear me out all the way from there, and puts my Neurolictor on the bottom right corner down to a single wound. This has just been an ongoing trading combat of my Neurolictor with only 1 damage versus 20 wounds of models versus 10 dudes that all wound me on 5s and hit on 4s. So, the Neurolictor is losing that fight, and he hasn't been contesting that objective at all throughout the game either, but at least he's tying down her resources there and making that fight happen. The Maleceptor actually lives. I think Ava put everything into the Hive Tyrant. I think she maybe might have chipped some of the warriors in the top left as well. But overall, essentially, the Maleceptor is totally fine. However, in the ongoing combat, does not manage to kill the Lancer. And then she clears out the Neurolictor and Deathleaper from the center, pushes forward onto the center, and then with the Hive Tyrant down to 3 after her shooting, she then charges in the Redemptor, which she spent the CP to like superpower it with +1 move, toughness, strength, all of that stuff, that Iron Storm strat. So super Redemptor charged my Hive Tyrant, and rather than fight me like a man, she just tank shocked me and killed me. But you know, that is the sound strategic play. And I really wish Tyranids had Tank Shock, but I don't want to play Crusher Stampede. So, yeah. So Ava did manage to kill the Hive Tyrant just with a Tank Shock. And, then that brought on to my turn 4, where for the first time, I only hold 1 objective, but that's fine because the center one disappeared anyways, and that 1 objective is worth 8 points. Never mind. This picture clearly shows the Maleceptor did in fact actually die. My bad. And then here's the image of, and I guess the Hive Tyrant was down to 2. So I was misremembering that a little bit, but Ava did charge in and then Tank Shock and kill that 2 Hive Tyrant, which statistically absolutely should happen. Ava had overwhelming force and extend back or behind enemy lines. She was able to get behind enemy lines with some Inceptors deep striking in. Actually, I don't even think it was Inceptors. I forget what it was. One unit got behind enemy lines. She was able to clear out Deathleaper from the center objective, giving her the small kill. The Neurolictor was not on the objective, so she didn't get that one. Neither was the Hive Tyrant or the Maleceptor. Then on my turn 4, I did get the top left objective for 8 points, and I decided to, I brought my warriors that killed the Calidus back down to swap over to the home, as well as the Neurotyrant advanced up, just everyone trying to get onto that objective for turn 5 scoring, and or at least prevent Ava from getting turn 5 scoring on that objective. And the warriors that were sitting on that objective came out to avenge the Hive Tyrant and managed to pick up the Redemptor. I did have 2 CP to one-shot it, essentially, with the lethal hits on 5s. They actually killed it with ease. I think I had 5 or 6 wounds that went through extra. I love this unit. I don't think I've said that enough, obviously. But they were able to just one-shot the Redemptor Dread. And that was through its +1 save. She only had a 3-up save, and I still just picked it up. That's a 3-up save after AP2, because it had essentially a 1-up save. So I got those Bring It Down points for turn 4. I now have a plethora of Spore Mines sitting in her top right corner, as you can see, scoring me teleport homers. And then we get to Ava's turn 4. She pushes out and basically manages to kill all of the warriors that had pressured, as well as killing like 4 others. And just kind of going for broke, Ava managed to shoot the... She shot at... she basically cleaned up all the warriors, but was trying to take that objective in the top left. I think I had a couple warriors survive, like 2 plus the prime, I think. And I did still have a Neurolictor on that objective. So it was still mine by the time we got to turn 5, scoring me the big 15 primary. And then the bottom right objective disappeared. So Ava pushed forward with the infiltrators. And for secondaries, pulled overwhelming force behind enemy lines. That was turn 4 that she got those. And then turn 5, pulled Bring It Down and Extend battle lines. So, this is actually the end state of the game, where I had killed the Redemptor. She picked everything up. My warriors then went to go kill the Lancer, I believe, for Bring It Down. Get some final Bring It Down points there. Just the remaining prime and 2 warriors killed the Lancer up at the top. And Ava basically finished the game up with... she did actually manage, the Inceptors came over and killed off the last Neurolictor on the objective. And so she did get the full 15 primary for end of the game. But at that point, I was solidly in the lead. And with Bring It Down and Extend Battle Lines, she got that as well because she held her home with that Lieutenant, and the Inceptors managed to get on the only midfield objective. And Bring It Down was pretty easy. She just opened up with the Repulsor Executioner and popped the Neurotyrant. So at the end of the game, I think I literally just had a Biovore left with like 2 wounds because she even charged him in combat, put him down to 2 wounds. He did live though. So I was not fully tabled by the end of the game, whereas Ava still had 6 Inceptors, Redemptor Dread, Repulsor Executioner, 5 Infiltrators, 2 Tech Marines, and a Lieutenant. And I had a lone Biovore with 2 wounds plus 2 Spore Mines off in a corner. But it's okay. The game was over. I was ahead on points, so I did manage to win this game 89-74. And props to Ava, seriously, for a very well done game. So many things that went just barely in my favor at the beginning, and that's what I needed. Okay, so Tyranids are doing pretty well so far, but that brings us on to round 6. I really lucked out with that round 5. I feel like I should not have won that game, but again, the mission basically handing me the 15-point objective, plus me getting really lucky and doing exactly the damage I needed to kill repulsors for the first 2 turns, allowed me to basically stay in that game just long enough to win on points. And so now we are going up against the other list that I really don't want to see, Eldar with triple Night Spinner. However, aside from that triple Night Spinner and Yinkarn, the rest of the list is has some nice flavor text to it. So this is Eldar playing the Autarch Weight Leaper with Fuegan. So 2 guys that when you kill them stand back up on a 2-up at full health, and they have awesome melta-guns and move really fast. Super good units. Then obviously you have the Yinkarn teleporting everywhere whenever someone dies, and just this massive headache and whole extra mini game you have to play when you're fighting it on top of fighting Eldar. Other than that, though, it's got 2 Star Weavers, which are loaded up with Harlequin troops, which I thought was pretty cool. Nice thing you don't see super often. Doesn't mean they're bad. They certainly... they are definitely good, and they're just really cheap for their points. 155 points gets you a decent 5-man unit plus a transport that's really fast. He then has 2 Hornets. These are kind of the Eldar go-to after the nerf to Fire Prisms. Just nice, cheap, bright lances that's basically all they are. They're really cheap. Because of the change to Phantasm, though, at least you can shoot them back. And they are very squishy. But then we get to the dreaded triple Night Spinner. This is a nightmare for, I think, any army in the game, but Tyranids definitely don't like it when Night Spinners target their Biovores. And on top of that, he has 2 5-man Ranger squads to help screen out infiltrators and do secondaries for him, and finish up the list with 2 units of Warp Spiders, also just incredible secondaries, plus really good anti-infantry flamers that you can't really hide from. So this is round 6 against Michael Russell, again playing as Eldar. And round 6 is really, really interesting. If you watched my previous video, I don't understand this mission at all, but here we are, LVO round 6, and we're playing it. So round 6 is priority targets with 6 objectives, which is real interesting because you only score for holding 2 of them, and your home counts. So all you have to do is hold your home and one of the 4 no man's lands for the whole game, and you will score 50 primary. So I kind of always just write this mission off as congratulations, we both got 50 primary, and let's just fight for secondaries. With this and him being Eldar, I did elect to go tactical, and basically just hope I can just play the tactical game, basically, and have my warriors, or have my monsters be durable enough to stay on objectives. So with that in mind, here is our deployments. Eldar being pretty, standard hiding. I really wanted bottom of turn because bottom of turn can be a huge swing as it is priority targets again. And if I can keep my Neurotyrant alive until turn 5, and once again Shadow, massive end game sweep where I can basically keep him on 40 primary instead of giving him the automatic. Or no, I even can keep him on 30 primary if I manage to basically Battle Shock everything. But essentially it's a double or nothing round with Shadow in the Warp if you're able to keep it up till turn 5. So keeping the Neurotyrant alive and basically waiting till then certainly was my game plan. However, in this mission, you can see how we deployed, and then Michael won the role to go first. And then, being the Eldar player that he is, he decided to continue to hide. And I learned something new right here, where he drew Cleanse and Secure No Man's Land. And rather than expose any tools at all, he just walked his 5 Infiltrating Rangers forward and cleansed both objectives with them. I did not realize one unit could cleanse 2 objectives, but we looked at the card, confirmed it, just double checked with the judge just to be sure, and judge confirmed it. One unit can cleanse 2 objectives. So he with Secure No Man's Land and Cleanse, literally one unit of Rangers just walked forward 4 inches and scored him 10 secondary points. So that's pretty good start for Michael, especially on a mission that I said is going to come down entirely to secondaries. And that had me sweating bullets right from the get-go. The other thing that happened was he fired, I did deploy my Biovore way far back in the corner, so only one Night Spinner was in range to hit it. I popped the Feel No Pain, and it actually took no damage. He managed to not roll any 6s, and the 3 wounds that he did, I had a 3-up save against, and I made all of them. So thankfully, Biovore did not just die turn 1. And the other 2 Night Spinners both shot into my melee warrior squads, making it where they couldn't advance and they only moved 4. So, love that. But again, this is a mission where I didn't think they were ever going to be able to catch the Eldar anyways. So then we get to my turn 1, where I draw Overwhelming Force and Behind Enemy Lines. He did screen out significantly enough that I was not able to get a Spore Mine in his backfield. However, I did deploy super aggressively with all of my Neurolictors and Deathleaper. So I wasn't able to get behind enemy lines except with charges, but thankfully they were all like 6-inch charges. And with Overwhelming Force, that would have only worked if I could... the only guys that were on objectives was a Night Spinner, which only like a Exocrine could get a beat on, and the Rangers that he put on the center. So I managed to kill the Rangers. Obviously, my entire army had almost nothing else to kill other than those. So I killed the 5 Rangers. He did actually elect to put the Yinkarn on the objective in response. Thankfully, the Yinkarn is only OC3 and the Maleceptor is OC4. My Biovore put a Spore Mine in the bottom right corner just for future if I ever get Investigate Signals. Or Engage. Basically just have an auto one there that's waiting, and I didn't think... Michael would really want to throw like a Night Spinner at that Spore Mine, so I felt pretty confident that it was just going to kind of sit there and eventually score me points whenever those cards came up. The other big thing about this turn, though, was with the Neurolictors and Deathleaper all pushing forward. They basically both ran towards his Warp Spiders, and I'm like, okay, one of these units can Phantasm away, and I'm going to get the other one. He didn't Phantasm either of them, which I'm not really sure why at all. He had no reason not to. But it meant that the Neurolictors and Deathleaper all got to charge Warp Spiders. I didn't kill fully any of the squads, but on the top right, the Neurolictor killed 4 of them, leaving just the Sergeant left, and in the center, Deathleaper and Neurolictor killed 3 of them. They kind of whiffed, unfortunately, leaving the Sergeant with 1 Warp Spider alive, but killing 7 Warp Spiders before they get to do anything, even though he still has the units to do like secondaries, it at least removed their Flamers, which is something that I don't normally get to do against Eldar, I'll just say that. Apparently I forgot to take pictures for turn 3, or turn 2, but here is, I believe, the board state as of turn 3. The Yinkarn basically teleporting around, but turn 2, he held his home objective and drew area denial and tempting target. I tempted him with, I think, not the top left, but the center top left objective. Basically, I tempted him with that, which had a Maleceptor on it and an Exocrine. And his 2 troop units came out to out OC it because I was OC 8. He was OC 10 with his 2 troops. I elected to overwatch, and I only killed 1 troop, so I needed to kill 2 to be able to make that a thing. Except then he used the grenade strat on my Maleceptor and rolled 6 4-ups and did 6 mortals. And then he shot his 4 fusion pistols, which are strength 8 and D3 damage plus Melta 2, and killed the Maleceptor, which I was not expecting at all. But hey, sometimes that's the way the dice go. And yeah, so he killed the Maleceptor, and so the Overwatch ended up not mattering anyways that I only killed 1. Because, yeah, suddenly I was only OC4, and he did get his tempting target. The other thing that happened was his Night Spinners all shot at that Exocrine on that objective as well, and I think put it down to like 4 or 6 wounds left. It was 6. So he did 8 damage from all of his Night Spinners shooting at the Exocrine, just trying to basically dev wound me. And then he put his 1 Warp Spider Sergeant into the center, as well as his 2 other Warp Spiders went to the top left objective and flamed the Neurolictor over there. The Hornets shot me, and I think actually just bounced. It was 4 Dark Lances, and I think he did 3 wounds, and I just happened to bounce all of them. So that was kind of cool. And then on my turn, I drew Assassinate and Secure No Man's Land. Assassinate, I was feeling pretty good about because the Deathleaper and Neurolictor that was on his home objective, he actually charged the Autarch and Fuegan into them. And Deathleaper, so he shot the Meltas into the Neurolictor, killed it, and then charged Deathleaper. I warned him that I fought first, and he's like, that's fine, I'll live. I fought first and killed the Autarch, then used its Soul Gem to stand right back up, but I at least popped that, and then between the 2 of them, they put Deathleaper down to 2 wounds, so I think they did 5 damage with Fuegan. And then Deathleaper decided to get the hell out of Dodge, run away, leaving the 2 Autarchs still in the building. My warriors then pushed forward to kill off all 10 troops that had charged the Exocrine. So I removed all of his troops, and then the other warrior squad, just to get movement, because, again, they were getting Night Spinnered. So I just needed the movement, so they charged the 1 Warp Spider in the center. And after that, I killed a lot of his small pieces and then was able to get movement to where I was now covering the 3 objectives, as you see in this picture. He did put the Yinkarn right where that 1 Warp Spider was, so that wasn't great for me, as it's now his turn with the Yinkarn just right there in my lines. So yeah, and then on his turn, he pulled Assassinate and Investigate Signals. So he had his Night Spinner in the top right. He just had one of his 2 Night Spinners there, Investigate rather than Shoot. He put down 5 Rangers from reserve into the top left to investigate there. Assassinate was super easy because he had a 2-wound Deathleaper, so the Yinkarn just flamed it and it died. Fuegan came forward and melted the 6-wound Exocrine and just one-shot it because Fuegan. The Autarch came over and I think shot a Maleceptor, but thankfully I pinged that off of my 4-up invuln. The Hornet, again, kind of whiffed. Maybe it did 5 damage, but it definitely didn't kill anything. The Yinkarn, however, charged into my melee warrior squad and managed to pick up all 6 of them, and I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. They are within range of my free critically hit on 5s. I have lethal hits. This unit has killed a Yinkarn before with the full combo, lethal crit on 5s. And so I'm like, I'm going to fight on death. spent the CP, and then I rolled 0 out of 6 4-ups. So never mind. I do 0 damage to the Incarn. I lost the entire warrior squad, and I spent a CP and my free strat for the turn. So the dice were not with me this game at all. They were very much in Michael's favor. Thankfully, he seemed to be playing still a very passive game. I think he was waiting for turn 5. But yeah, so the Incarn did manage to pick up an entire warrior squad. He picked up the other Exocrine as well as Deathleaper, getting him Assassinate and 4 points on Investigate Signals. On my turn, though, I held my home and at least I think I held 2 of the objectives, with both of them being the right ones, as well as my home, but it caps at 10. And then I'd held on to Assassinate because he had a 1 wound Autarch, as well as, maybe the Incarn or Fuegan if I was feeling lucky. And then I also drew no prisoners, so was feeling great on that. I just had to basically kill the stuff that I was planning on killing anyways. And yeah, I decided to go all in on the Incarn with moving everyone forward, and then and have that be my Assassinate points. And if I failed, then the warriors could maybe at least charge the Autarch and kill that and get me the points. And so I moved in such a way that I was prepared to not shoot anything except the Incarn because I didn't want her teleporting away. And then I was really dumb and I moved my Neurolictor, which was by the 2 warp spiders in the top left. They overwatched, killed the Neurolictor, and the Incarn teleported away from all of my guns and my charges. And of course, I have the biggest eye roll. Michael just laughs, and he's like, I've seen that eye roll so many times when playing the Incarn, so I know I'm not alone. But yeah, he even asked, he was nice, he even asked me if I wanted to take it back, and I'm like, no, honestly, you shouldn't have killed him. You got lucky with it, and I messed up, so that's totally my bad. So he was a fantastic sport about it, but I wasn't going to ask him to take that back. There was no reason to do so, other than it just sucks. But yeah, so I'd lined up everything to kill the Incarn, and then it teleported away. And so instead, for no prisoners, I basically shot down range, and I finished off. So I finished off a light vehicle, I think a Hornet. I killed off his 2 Harlequin transports. That's what I got instead, as well as I killed off I killed Fuegan for the first time, but he stood back up. And that's how I got my Assassinate points. Then we get more into the end game. We get to Michael's turn 4. I am at least doing a very good job of keeping him off of primaries, so he still only scores his home objective. And then, however, on his turn, he pulls behind enemy lines and teleport Homer. I believe he does that with Fuegan, who stood back up, and yeah, he basically just comes into my deployment zone and does teleport Homer. I overwatch him with a flamer, and I put him down to 2 wounds, but he's still alive. And then yeah, his shooting is pretty devastating. He kills the Hive Tyrant, picks up the rest of the warriors, and a Maleceptor. And this is kind of what you see. This is nearing the end game state, but at least over the last 2 turns, this is the state of the board. I do manage to, in my turn 4, kill at least the Autarch. He brought it down to the bottom right objective, and I overwatched him, and I did kill him. I think that was turn 5, actually. Because in my turn, I put him down to 1 wound, and he should have died, but he didn't. And then on his turn, he ran to the bottom right objective to Melta the Maleceptor. The Maleceptor overwatched and managed to kill him, thankfully. So I did get that. Other than that, sorry guys, my brain is mush after this, going this long on recording. But with me having bottom of turn in this mission and being ahead on points, as well as, again, Michael never really pushed out with any of his vehicles, so he was just leaving the Autarchs and the Incarn to basically threaten objectives, And with all of my, monsters being OC4 and Fuegan, Autark, and Yinkarn being at most OC3, he never actually threatened any of the objectives as long as I was still alive. And with a 4-up Invuln, I was able to stay alive just long enough. I believe on his turn 5, he managed to finish off the Exocrine and the Pyrovores in the top left, but I still held my Maleceptor on the bottom right. He could not kill that one. And my Neurotyrant, he shot with Night Spinners at turn 5, put it down to 2 wounds, but it lived. And that basically became the game where he was able to hold his home as well as one of the middles with the Yinkarn for 20 primary because it was 10 and 10 at the end game. And I was able to do the same, hold the bottom right with the Maleceptor and my home with the Neurotyrant for 20 primary. And as a bonus, I pulled Defend Stronghold and Area Denial. I forget what was alive for Area Denial, but something was able to... Oh, I shot a Spore Mine there. Well, as a dirty Tyranid player does. I shot a Spore Mine into the center for Area Denial, getting 5 points there, and I held, obviously, my home objective at the end of the game, giving me actually a 100-point win to 85. Making Tyranids go 4-2. Very happy with that performance. I mean, it's literally my 11th year at LVO and my 11th time going 4-2. 8 of which I think are with Tyranids. So the curse continues of going 4-2 at LVO, but honestly, I'm pretty happy with it. Tyranids are a middle-of-the-road army. Very happy that I got to play on stream. I lost 2 games, but both of which were to identical sisters lists against incredible players. And honestly, I built my list to take on 3 of the 4 top meta picks, being Chaos Space Marines, regular Vanguard Space Marines, and Necrons, and I never played a game against any of those. So the fact that I went 4-2 still makes me pretty happy. But yeah, if you've watched this long, thank you guys so much for watching. 2-hour-long video, but hey, it's LVO, so really exciting. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys think, and I will catch you all next time.